we are back. As promised, we're going to talk about some devices. All of these devices kind of fall within that entry level. So let's get started. We'll break them all down, show you a little bit of differences, talk about the threading that is provided and why that is important as far as the gear that you're going to put on top of them. So let's jump right in. So first thing that we're going to talk about is the Lily. It is a 510 unit, 510 being the threading that is going to connect to the atomizer. This is the one piece that we offer that is going to be similar to the old 510s with a much higher battery rate. It's a 500 mile battery. It allows people to have a slimmer device. Some people have difficulty transitioning from analogs to electronic cigarettes because of the size of the units. You don't have to have a big hulking unit. This actually is a device that will allow for you to have a size electronic cigarette that's comparable to a typical cigarette. Of course, it's a little longer. With that being said, there are multiple pieces. The drip tip actually comes off. The reference to the threading, internal and external threading. Again, smaller device, similar to the profile of a cigarette. Has a battery meter. The button serves as a battery meter, lets you know when your battery's dying. The front lights up. It's a cutesy little device. And again, everybody doesn't want something that's huge, but folks do want to be able to make a transition. The Lily actually has a small tank system, which can be found inside the box when you purchase the kit. We also have the replacement atomizers and tanks. So basically what happens is you fill the tank, you attach it to an atomizer, both of which go into this shell housing. As you can see, that's actually hollow. Everything screws onto the battery unit. You press button and vape. So that's the Lily. Just a brief overview of the functionality and the how it works aspects of it. So the next item that we're featuring is called an Ego battery. In this case, it's the e-cig Twist. Focus. It's a variable voltage device. Variable voltage actually allows you to change the amount of warmth in the vapor and the vapor production up to a diminishing point. Sometimes we want to run a device really high and with the expectation that they're going to have huge clouds produced. That's not always the case. There is a point of diminishing returns. With that being said, the Egos actually have two different types of threading as well. So you have the Ego threading, which is the outside threading, and then the 510 threading, if you can actually see that in there, which is for the larger tanks. The larger tanks more often than not will not have Ego threading, they will have 510 threading. Varying the voltage on this device occurs on the bottom. So if you notice, there's a little dot. And I'm not quite sure if you can actually see the numbers and hash marks around the base, but they are there. And it gives you different settings. It allows you to literally adjust the warmth of the vapor. A couple other features, you can actually turn these units on and off. 5 rapid taps will turn the unit on. Now when I hit the button, it lights up. Same thing to turn it off, 5 rapid taps. And now when you hit the button, it does nothing. Why do you need to turn it off? If the battery is sitting dormant and is not in use, you're not actually using any battery life. The problem with leaving it turned on, if you put it in your pocket, which we don't advise, you snap them in half when you do that, but people still put them in their pocket. So if you're going to put it in your pocket, you want to turn it off, because if the battery is engaged, you're burning up your juice, you're burning up your coil, and you're not actually using it. Basically, you'll be depleting battery life for nothing. So you have the ability to turn this unit on and off, which actually allows you to save on battery life when it's not in use. So the next item that we're going to talk about is the Itaste VV version 3. V as in Victor, VV. So with that being said, this is a variable voltage and variable wattage device. 3 taps turns this unit on. If you notice, there was a little parade of lights when I turned it on. That's because, again, the button on here is also the battery meter. It has an LED display. First difference between this and an Ego style battery. So that LED display will actually allow you to change your voltage or wattage. It also shows you a puff count. So for each time I hit the button, it'll actually register the fact that I hit the button. Now, if you're like me, every time you hit the button on your device, you take more than one puff. So maybe the puff count is not accurate, but it will count how many times you actually hit the button, not necessarily the number of puffs you take while hitting the button. So for example, I hit the button 4 times. The battery is set at 3.5. If I hold this button, now I can actually use the plus or minus to scroll up or down to control how warm the vapor is as I'm using this device. If I didn't want it to be on voltage, maybe I prefer using wattage. The first thing I want to do is bring up the display by holding the button. Display pops up. If I hold the positive button, now it's on wattage. So when you see that P for power on your device, that's just a reference to let you know that you have switched from voltage to wattage. Again, wattage is something that we'll break down in a later video, the differences between using a device on voltage and wattage, but just to let you know that feature is there. Also, notice that the USB is on the bottom for this particular device. This device is a pass-through unit. Anytime a device is referred to as a pass-through unit, it means that you can actually use it while it's charging. That's a very handy feature. That means that you're not actually waiting for a battery to charge in order to vape. The longest wait you ever had to take when smoking was, I run out of a pack, I go and buy more. There was no 2-hour wait time. This eliminates that charge time because you can actually use it while it's charging. So that's pretty much a good overview on the VV. So let's move on. Now what we have is the Kliq. The Kliq is a combination of all things good with the Ego versus all things good with the VV. It's a pass-through unit. This little black gasket here comes out. You are going to plug your USB charging cable into it, and again, pass-through meaning you can use it while it's charging. You still have a battery meter. 3 taps turns the unit on. As I hit the button, it's flaring green. That means that the battery is fully charged. Difference being no screen, right? So we're back to that on the base adjustment. The biggest difference between how this battery adjusts versus how the Ego battery adjusts. The Ego is a free spinning, whereas the adjustment on the base of the Kliq battery literally does what it says. It clicks into place. So another comparison would be up against the VV. The VV has a screen that allows you to see where you're doing your adjustments on that particular display versus the Kliq where it's just going to lock into place. The Kliq does not have the wattage feature. So if that's something that you're looking for, you might want to go in the direction of the VV or maybe even an MVP, which goes into the larger mod that are still on that entry basic level. And we'll get into those as well in future videos. But for all intents and purposes, we've just kind of covered 4 of the most used, most sought after devices in that small device family.